All right. Usually we learn from the Devar Malchus, but this Devar Malchus, this week it's talking about what happens when the 17th day falls on Shabbat, and it gives a whole explanation of the number 110. Okay, so let's learn. This is the first Yud-based Tammuz that the Rebbe had when he was a Rebbe. Okay, the Rebbe took over the leadership officially, like about 6 months, whatever, before this mimer was said. 6, 7 months, which was in Shvat, the month of Shvat, Tavshin Yud Aleph, and here we have the month of Tammuz. So this is the first time the Rebbe was celebrating this holiday of the release of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. They were celebrating it as the Rebbe. So just to remind everybody again that the Judaism is based on Moshiach. The most important single person in Judaism is the Moshiach. That's the whole goal of Judaism, is Moshiach. And we see how it all depends on people. If there was no Abraham to stand against the whole world, that's it. If there was no Moses to stand against the whole world, finished. If there was no Mordechai in the generation of the holiday of Purim, forget it, right? Forget it. You have to have a great leader, because the people on their own are people. They don't know, how really serious and how real God is and how elusive the world is. So therefore, you have to have a true leader. The idea of Mashiach is going to be to reveal to the Jews, and through the Jews are the chosen people, right? We're chosen to fix up the whole world. We're chosen to make the world a good place, to bring blessing to all mankind. Blessing and order and meaning and love and harmony to all mankind. Believe it or not, that's the job of the Jews. That's what we're chosen for. But you can't do it. The orchestra can't play unless there's a conductor. You have to have someone that'll get all the Jews, activate all the Jews first of all, and then to get the Jews to what are we supposed to teach the world? There's a creator. That the creator is creating everybody, every single person, right? Every single person, a person that doesn't even know he's a person, who knows whatever he's somewhere in some cave or something. Every single person in the world is being created by God, and every person is important to God, and every person has something to to give to the world, to add to the world. Every person. And only there's going to be one person that's going to do it. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe was that person. And in our generation, the Rebbe is that person. He's the one that took over the job from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. So the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe fought against what in those days was the most sinister force in the world, and that was communism. Communism, they say, we said this so many times, they say that Stalin killed about 50 million of his own people, up to, you can look it up in Google or something. Some people say it wasn't, it's a big exaggeration. He didn't kill 50 million people, don't make him so bad. He only killed like 20 million people, which is nowhere near as bad as 50 million. 50 million people, come on. Right? And some people say he killed more than 50 million people. A moderate estimate is that he killed that many people. In other words, people meant nothing to him. Meant absolutely nothing to him. Life meant nothing to him. Nothing, power meant, who knows what meant. I don't know if anything meant anything to him. He certainly wasn't trying to benefit the world. But okay, stands against him one person, and that's the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that his goal is exactly the opposite of Stalin, to benefit everyone in the world, even the people that are against him. And who won? Stalin. Stalin won. The Rebbe was put into prison. He was tortured. He was and miraculously, somehow or other, which to this day nobody has any idea how it really happened, but the Rebbe got out. He got out. He got out of prison. It's a tremendous, amazing miracle, and that was only the beginning. Said the Rebbe that was just the first crack in the Iron Curtain, and that 63 years later, and then 1990 was 1991, The whole thing just crumbled, and that's it. The whole, no more Iron Curtain. And it was all because of what the previous Rebbe did. And now the work that the Rebbe is doing, and all the Chabad houses in the world to bring the Moshiach actually, really, factually to all mankind is because of the work of the previous Rebbe. So this is a big day. This is the Yud Beis Yud Gil Tammuz, the day that the Rebbe was actually freed from, it was from exile. First of all, he was put into prison, sentenced to death, and then he got out of prison officially on the third day of Tammuz, and 10 days later, he was completely released. And that's a big holiday in Chabad. Let's understand this because it's talking about how God really helps us if we are totally self-sacrificing. And the Rebbe opened up the door for self-sacrifice. This is the holiday of self-sacrifice. Holiday. That's what Judaism is based on. Abraham's whole thing was self-sacrifice. Abraham didn't do any miracles. He didn't talk about going to heaven. His whole thing was that Abraham opened the door to what's called self-sacrifice, Masirut Nefesh. And self-sacrifice doesn't necessarily mean dying for God. It means just to do what Hashem wants and not necessarily what I want. And even if it, God forbid, costs me my life, it costs me my money, I'm doing what God wants. I'm not paying attention to anything. Only what, that's called Masirut Nefesh, giving over my soul, my will to the creator of the universe. That's Judaism. Not thinking about going to heaven, not thinking about not going to. Okay, so that's the holiday of Yud Beis. Tremendously happy holiday, because when a person is not thinking about himself, that is the secret of happiness. And a person thinking about himself, making himself big, that is the secret of depression. Bavadai, certainly, Yodim Kulam, Parshat Yamin, what happened on the days of Yud Beis Gil Tammuz, the days of the redemption of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe from his imprisonment and spreading out Judaism, because he was spreading out, on the punishment that he was spreading out Judaism. A little bigger. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe told that in the beginning, when he was put into prison, they judged him with death. Afterwards, they changed just in a few days. They suddenly changed. There was world pressure. They changed the punishment to 10 years in exile in some sort of a weird place in Siberia. And afterwards, they changed it to 5 years. And then afterwards, they changed it to 3 years in the city called Kostroma, which Kostroma was nowhere near as harsh as it would have been in Siberia. On the third day of Tammuz, the previous Rebbe left the jail. Right, they left the jail. I think I told you about this before, that really they freed him 3 days earlier, but it would mean that he would have to travel on Shabbat, so he refused to leave. So he got out on the third day of Tammuz, which was Sunday, and then he went to the city of Kostroma, and he was there just for, 9 days. It took him time to travel also, until Yud Beis Tammuz. On Yud Beis Tammuz, this is his birthday, the birthday of the previous Rebbe, when was told to him the GPO, that was like the KGB of those days. There was the NKVD, there's different names. Anyway, they told him to, okay, they said, we're letting you out. All you have to do is just sign and we're letting you out. But the office was closed. And this was some sort of a holiday of theirs. But when it was known that he finally, but then after that, there was an order from Moscow to free him. Ulamachrat, the next day, Yud Gimel Tammuz, they let him know that you're free. They gave him a letter, a document that he's free, and that's it. Because everybody was very surprised by the non-Jews, because they were very, pressured, that they got an order from who knows who it was in Moscow to free him. So they wanted to free him in such a way shenikar she'en ze ashmatam she'yadia al shichro itakva b'meshech meidlei. They wanted it to be clear to everybody that, right, they got an order to free him on the 12th, but the offices were closed. So now all of a sudden they became afraid. The officials, oh yeah, we were supposed to free him yesterday, and we didn't follow orders. Not following orders, I mean, so they wanted to do something to show that it wasn't their fault. Move an efo gadol hakpitza vadilug me'onish mavis, so we can understand what an amazing miracle it was that just a few days earlier they were going to kill him, and now they're pressuring him and making it right show that for sure they let him out, and they would have wanted to let him out yesterday, and they were very sorry that he didn't get out. You can understand what was going on. A few days earlier, they wanted to kill him. And now all of a sudden, they're worried that they didn't let him out earlier. Right? What is it, 10, 15 days earlier? They were the kings. The Rebbe was a nothing. That's what they thought. All of a sudden, everything turned around, and now they were afraid of themselves. They had to hurry up and make sure that the Rebbe was 100% free, and they apologized to him. We saw that the previous Rebbe, he conducted himself in a miraculous way. The truth is, Hanacha in a Rebbe was always miraculous. But there were times that you couldn't see it, and the times, many as from then, we saw clearly, Shekol Inyanim benogea laHanacha itzel Rebbe, munagim b'derech shelo ma'ala mi'ateva. From that time, what is it, 1927, until, from then on, until the previous Rebbe's passing in 1950, we saw that every moment of his life was totally above nature. But derech hateva, according to nature, lo yashum motze la'atzlato shel Rebbe. There was no possible way that the Rebbe could have possibly been free. Ubafrat, and especially, I mean, when he was in prison, they could have just, killed him, no problem. Say, oh, we're really sorry, he fell down, or he refused, he killed himself, or, he resisted arrest. They could have said anything they wanted to. How much more so, there's no possible way that not only could the Rebbe get free, but even more to continue doing what he was doing before, spreading out Judaism. And that's what he did as soon as he got out. Mitzad kamam and nius falamos v'sterin, because there were so many preventions and opposition. Avol pikein, nevertheless, nimsas tamid derech hamatima kach shebakol medina she'yilel. Every country where the Rebbe reached, right, when the Rebbe was freed, so he went to Latvia, and then he went to Russia. Wherever he reached, or wherever his emissaries reached, he immediately started doing things which were against L'riat Maimat Matzav Avsharut Lamshich Avoda b'Medina Zu. It was every country that he was, he defied nature, and he spread out Judaism wherever he was, looked for Jews, inspired Jews. Nevertheless, and not only that, everything he did, it succeeded. Every country that he went to, there was success. There was always some Jews that he aroused to be Jewish. He woke up their Judaism. It's that we have to know that this continues even now. That's the Musar Haskell. That's the big lesson that we can take to us. Namely, what? Self-sacrifice to spread out Judaism to another Jew. Let's first of all talk about, did the previous Rebbe really pass away or not? We find in the Gemara in Yerushalmi, and it's also brought in Yalkut Shemoni, Benagil Shimshon. It says Samson. Shekatuv Echad Omar, one that says Vayishporet Yisrael Arbaim Shana. It says that he judged the Jewish people 40 years. Kasav Echad, another sentence says that he judged the Jewish people 20 years. Okay, Melamed, we learn that they were afraid of him 20 years after he died. The 20 years when he was alive, right? When he was alive. Shimshon was the last of what we call the judges, the shoftim. He was tremendously strong, and he really made order among the Jewish people. But he died. You know the whole story where he was taken when the police team took him prisoner and they blinded him. So he really only ruled for 20 years. But it says that he ruled for 40 years because 20 years after he died, they were still afraid of him. Kolomar. Cave and Shagam Achramoso, even after he died, Nimshach continued his leadership. They were afraid of him 20 years longer. So therefore, this is considered as that he actually was judging. If it's talking about just a shofet, one of the judges of Israel, how much more so in a Rebbe? The whole thing of the Rebbe is what? Yechida shebenefesh. The essence of a Rebbe is not just to tell everybody what to do and to keep everybody in line, give them the right, give them the proper advice. A Rebbe is the essence of the Jewish soul, Jewish identity. Okay, this has to be explained a little bit. There's a book which I don't know if we can read, if we can learn. It's called Inyana Shel Torah Chasidus. It's called Inyana Shel Torah Chasidus. What is it called? I think it's called, what is it? There's a name for it in English that's called, I don't remember. There's a name for it in English, it's translated. In any case, what does it explain? Explains, this was from a Sikh of the Rebbe, explains basically the whole idea of Moshiach, and that the Moshiach is basically the essence of the Jewish soul. And that the Jewish soul is something which is totally undescribable. You can't describe it. All of a sudden, it just wakes up in a Jew. A Jew is willing to give his life for his Judaism. A Jew that's not religious, doesn't care anything about kosher, about Shabbos, about anything. Suddenly, right, he's willing to give his whole life for his Judaism. And there was Jews that did so. This doesn't make any sense. Says the Rebbe, this is the essence of what a Jew is. It doesn't make any sense. That's the Jewish people. It's pure godliness in the world. It's like the difference between the Holy Temple and the Eiffel Tower, right? Or some other beautiful building. If this is talking about Samson, that he was a judge of the Jewish people, how much more so a Rebbe? The whole thing of the Rebbe is what? Yechida shebenefesh. This is the aspect of the Jewish soul which is drawn into every aspect of a person's life. That's this level of Yechida. Again, maybe I didn't explain enough. There's 5 levels of the soul. That's what's called nefesh. That's like the power of action. Then there's ruach. That's like inspiration for emotions. Then there's neshama. And neshama is the power of intellect, like consciousness, the ability to contemplate. Then there's chaya. That's generally speaking the power of will. And then there's yechida. Yechida is sometimes explained as the power of pleasure, but that's generally speaking the essence of the soul, where the soul is plugged into God, pure godliness. So he says that's what a Rebbe is. A Rebbe is to reveal pure godliness in the whole world, because that's the fact that God, there's nothing except for God. When God is revealed in the world, then what happens? Everything becomes very dynamic. It becomes very dynamic. Things are the way they're supposed to be. Right? Everyone is healthy. Everybody is productive. Everybody feels their obligation to the world. There's no depression and no destruction and no anger and no hatred. That's when Yechida is revealed. But Yechida is only really by the Jewish people. And this level of Yechida, lo shayach kol kach in nistalkos, the level of Yechida, and that's all the Rebbe, There's no such thing by death or going away. Dort had their inyan from Istalkos asach akleiner shaychos. This level of yechida is very, very, very little connection to death or even to separation. So certainly there can be that the Rebbe can lead the Jewish people even after he passes away, like Samson did. There are certain things, there are certain ways that yes, that the passing away of a big tzaddik, it does have certain effect. That just as the Rebbe was, the previous Rebbe was 2 years ago, like 1948 or whatever, the 1946, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and even before, that we saw that everything he did was a success above nature, because the Rebbe was the head. So it's also the same thing now. The Rebbe is still with us. With the Rebbe, of course, is talking about the previous Rebbe. Shahari and Kam Shal Hefsek, because there's no cessation, doesn't stop. Or Yerusha, or maybe an inheritance, right? The Rebbe, previous Rebbe gave over to the Rebbe the leadership. No way. That there has to be a division. There were people in the previous, this is the Rebbe is even talking about this way before. There were people that said that the previous Rebbe was a great leader and he passed away, and now all of his books and all of his things, they should be divided equally among his daughters. He had 2 daughters. One was married to the Rebbe, and another was married to a very great man, the Rebbe Shlomo Garari. It's called the Rashag. And there were some people that were saying, and this Rebbe Rashag was not one of them, because there were people that were saying, previous Rebbe passed away, and now everything has to be divided, because that's it. Says the Rebbe, the previous Rebbe never passed away. Davar zeh rotzim, but davar zeh lo rotzim. This, I'll take this, I'll take that. Das wilde. Elahu b'chayim, says the Rebbe, the previous Rebbe is alive. Because the main thing of the previous Rebbe was not his body. It says also that even more, when a tzaddik passes away, that his real essence is more available and has more effect on the world than when he was alive. And therefore, just like now, everything was above nature. Also from now on, it says, it says not only that the Rebbe is still with us, the Rebbe is more with us than he was when he was alive. You call in Yani B'Hatzlacha, so also from now on, everything will be tremendously successful above nature. So that automatically, so our choice is either we can be part of this, to be one together with the Rebbe and all of the previous Rebbe and all of his desires, namely to spread out Judaism to the whole world, wake up all the Jews. So we have the choice. You want to be part of it or not. Dabar Baru, it's an obvious thing. Everything is going to be from now on exactly like it was before. Like everything that's alive. Everything that's alive, it says that when a person is alive, Mailim Bakodesh, Holich V'Godel, a living thing grows. We see even a person, right? A person that he grows in his body, but afterwards he grows more mature, he grows more intellectual, he can be more practical. That's a living thing. That's a truly living thing. And nowadays that people get sick and they die, that's not the way things are supposed to be. Ella Kashem Shah Rebbe, just like the Rebbe said regarding to writing a Sefer Torah. So the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he had a Sefer Torah that was written for the receiving of the face of the Moshiach. The Rebbe only finished it many years later. The Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, he wrote a Sefer Torah, Torah scroll, for the coming of the Mashiach. And he said he doesn't want to take all the merit to himself. That everybody should have a part in it. And also, and everything, Some of them seem to be just like communal affairs. But really, the fact is not communal affairs. The reason that Rebbe wanted that the whole community should be aroused and do this work of spreading out Judaism, etc., is that he wanted everyone to have a merit. And that's the whole idea of spreading out Torah to everyone, including all of the Hasidim. So therefore, he wanted everyone to have a portion in the Sefer Torah. Therefore, the Rebbe, he gave and he is giving and he will give to each and every one the possibility to join in to this work of, in that case, writing the Sefer Torah or to spread out Judaism. So practically what it means to us is if, someone comes into your house to fix the radiator or something, so you ask him if he's Jewish, and if he is, ask him if he wants to put on tefillin. Take the tefillin out, not just a theoretical question. Take the tefillin out, and if he says, what are you doing? He says, listen, you're Jewish, take a minute and put on tefillin, and put tefillin on it. Sit down and learn a word of Torah. Say a word of Torah to him. Right? Say a positive thing. Bring a person, Gam Lahosif and Avtiach. God also, I'm sorry, that the previous Rebbe also promised that everyone who joins in with the the ideas of what the Rebbe said, Tiyakol Amshachas Abrachas Kabla Bracha, that will be a vessel to draw down blessings and will receive blessings in family, in health, and in livelihood. Revichi. All of this especially is hinted at Yud Beis Tammuz, the day of the birthday of the Rebbe, that's the day when his mazel was gober. Sha'az, then all we see with the physical eyes, that everything comes above nature. So it is every year that we have Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, because this is the Rebbe is saying this is in 1951, and the previous Rebbe got out of prison in 1927. On this date, Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, this is a proper time, a propitious time that each and every person can accept on himself a resolution, resolve. One of the ideas of the Rebbe, or some of them, that the Rebbe organized. Menahel v'yinael, that the Rebbe organized, and he is organizing now with the same Rebbe, Unvert Anfer, and then the Rebbe, he'll lead it. I mean, interestingly enough, the Rebbe used to go to the Ohel, where the previous Rebbe was buried, and he would pray, just like we just had a couple of weeks ago that Kalev, he went to pray at the grave of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? That the tzaddikim are not really, they're still helping us. So it says that the previous Rebbe, says the Rebbe is still alive. He didn't pass away. There's no inheritance. Therefore, says the Rebbe, now is the time that to get interested in any of the institutions or the ideas or the what do they call it, the mivtzoyim, the missions of the Rebbe, and it'll bring and try to join and to bring others also. The Rebbe then says the Rebbe will draw down Nosef al zechus lishtatev ba'avodas shel Rebbe, in addition to the merit that you get from being part of what the Rebbe wants. Also, everyone will have will be removed all of his the things that trouble him. He'll get a blessing in his children, in health, and in money, in his livelihood. And that's the mimer which the Rebbe said for Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz. It begins with Nasata Lirecha Hit Nesli His Noses Gomer, as we're going to talk about this mimer. Of the Rebbe. And we're going to continue this, God willing, tomorrow. The first Sicha that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave for Yud Beis and Yud Gimel Tammuz in 1951. Okay, let's just do the Yom Yom today. In the earlier period, the Alter Rebbe said the footsteps of man are directed by God. Wherever a Jew goes to a certain place, it's always for a reason, to do a mitzvah, whether it's a mitzvah between man and God or a mitzvah between man and his fellow man. A Jew is God's messenger. Wherever the messenger may be, he represents the one who sent him. Who sent us? God. Souls are higher than the angels. In what way? Because souls can be messengers of God by means of the Torah. In that sense, we are shluchim. Every single Jew is a shliach, a messenger and an emissary and a representative of the creator of the universe to make the world a better place. As we'll talk about, God willing, tomorrow. Have a good day with Moshiach now.